All right, what are the Hornets going to do at number 2 in the NBA draft Thursday night? Here to discuss that, Walker Mehl from WFNZ and also our friends at On Hornets. Walker, we've heard something different each day, that it's going to be first Scoot, then Brandon, then Scoot, then now Brandon again. About 24 hours out, what's your feeling on what the Charlotte Hornets are going to do at 2?
All the reports would indicate that Brandon Miller is the guy. Now, we got an interesting scenario last year where everybody was saying Jabari Smith was going to be the number 1 overall selection, and it never panned out. The odds start to switch. Paolo Banchero is the guy that eventually is taken number 1, and Jabari falls to 3. That could happen here because there is precedent, but all reports indicate Brandon Miller is that fit for the Charlotte Hornets, and it seems like they might be prioritizing fit rather than going after best player available. Mitch Kupchak indicated otherwise, so we'll see what ends up happening at number 2. It looks like Brandon Miller is going to be the guy, though.
Yeah, all right, so you've got breakdowns of each guy, Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson. We've got them on our YouTube page. But back to the Hornets, the decision-making and kind of this information leaking, it doesn't seem like it's coming from the Hornets, so that makes me wonder, do they even know here, and we're taping this Wednesday afternoon for transparency, do they know for sure who they want? I think Mitch Kupchak has a pretty good idea, but I think they're still going to discuss it right down to the wire.
Well, I do think this close, they are both going to, Michael Jordan, Mitch Kupchak, the scouting staff. I think everybody knows for a good idea on who they want to select, but it is going to come down to the wire. I mean, they just brought both of the players back in on Monday for second workouts, and so if there's any new information to be gained there, which you would think there is, then they're going to be applying that as to why they should select Brandon Miller or Scoot Henderson number 2 overall. So I do think it's going to come right down to the wire, especially with this big of a decision to make, Nick. I mean, it's such a big decision for this franchise.
All right, it's Mitch Kupchak's decision. Or is it Michael Jordan's? I'm still not sure after listening to Mitch. He says it's his call. What do you think about, though, Michael Jordan being involved heavily, at least, in one more NBA draft for the Hornets?
A lot of reports over his tenure since 2010, buying majority stake in the franchise, have indicated that he has been meddlesome at worst and involved at best in basketball operations side of things. I think it's not all that different from what owners experience with their draft picks, especially something at number 2, something at number 1 with other franchises, whether it be the NFL or the NBA. Ultimately, the owner is going to have to sign off on who you end up taking that high in the draft. I do think Mitch Kupchak is going to make the final decision, but Michael Jordan going to be heavily involved in that process. He even said he's going to play devil's advocate and just get involved in a healthy debate with Mitch Kupchak to make Mitch prove his point as to who that last pick is going to be.
All right, Mitch Kupchak also clarified, I think, maybe, comments from a few weeks ago about, fit versus best player available. It seems like he still thinks the Hornets are at least one more year away from just being able to draft the position you need, and that they will go best player available. Are you comfortable that that's going to be the case on Thursday night?
I think so. You mentioned it. It is
you
a little
look uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. I am a little uncomfortable. It's not a great fit. What can I say? No, I think for me, Mitch Kupchak did clarify those comments a little more. I am a little more at ease because it was vague when he referenced it the first time. There were a lot of different national NBA pundits taking it one way, while us locally might be taking it some way a little different. I do think eventually, whoever that pick is going to be, they're going to sell it as the best player available. And if it's Brandon Miller, who's viewed as the traditional fit, then they'll say, hey, him playing alongside LaMelo Ball, we really like that in this process. And if it's Scoot, they'll say both of those guys can work in the backcourt. Whoever it's going to be, though, they're going to sell it as the best player available, not just best fit.
If you're the Charlotte Hornets, what are you asking teams to provide you for that second pick? Like, how comfortable
in a trade package?
Yeah. How far are you comfortable going back, and what do you need in return?
I'm not moving back. Yeah. I think the furthest I would go is the number 3 scenario, and that would be Portland, and Portland's just not going to do that either. Yep. They have a Damian Lillard situation. They're going to try to figure out if they want to move on from Damian Lillard or if they want him there and they're going to trade for an all-star. I think if you're the Hornets, anything less than someone with an all-star appearance on their resume is a non-starter. Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson. If Boston wants to get involved, Jaylen Brown is going to have to be made available. Those are the only stars that I would consider. And if you want to come with draft picks, I guess, in a potential trade package, how much higher are you going to get the number 2, right? It's going to be hard to beat the second overall selection in a talented pool, especially this top-heavy. It's going to have to be an all-star or all-NBA player.
All right, it's not just number 2. Hornets have number 27 late in the first round, and they've got 3 second-round picks, so 5 total.
Yeah.
And for perspective, the Panthers picked 5 players in a 7-round NFL draft a few months ago. To me, there's no way they're coming out of this thing with 5 players.
Yeah,
what are they going to do with these picks?
Yeah, I think they're going to look to either trade them for future assets. This is something Mitch Kupchak has done before. I think clearly, well, not so clearly, but likelihood is high that they'll make this number 2 overall, or the number 2 overall pick. 27, I'd like to see them use. Still a good selection. First round, there are some guys there that I would really like. Maybe some ACC players that are slotted to go into that area. Maybe the Hornets use that selection. But still, in that 31-41 range, you can either use those picks to move up and get somebody you really like, use them, trade for a future first-round pick that you roll the dice on. Hopefully it's a better asset come 2025, 26, whatever that year may be. But I agree with Mitch. I think it's highly unlikely that they're going to use every single one of their 5 picks that they have in this NBA draft.
All right, you can hear Walker Mehl and Locked On Hornets introduce 5 new players on Friday morning on the podcast, potentially.
Don't do it, Mitch.
But probably not.